What if the moon landing was faked? Imagine a world where the iconic moment of human achievement, Neil Armstrong's small step and giant leap, was nothing more than a carefully orchestrated illusion. This alternate history unfolds not on the dusty plains of the Sea of Tranquility, but in the shadows of secrecy and subterfuge on Earth. In this scenario, the year is 1969. The United States is locked in a fierce rivalry with the Soviet Union. The space race is about more than technology. It's about ideology, prestige, and the faith of nations in their leaders. As pressure mounts to land a man on the moon before the Soviets, a crisis brews behind closed doors. Technical setbacks, budget overruns, and the near impossibility of pulling off a crewed lunar landing by the end of the decade force NASA and its government overseers to make a chilling decision. Rather than risk national humiliation and the unthinkable loss of life in a potential failed mission, they decide to fake it. The plan is daring, risky, and deeply unethical. Select engineers and filmmakers are sworn to the utmost secrecy. A soundstage is constructed that mirrors the barren, gray landscapes of the moon. Special effects experts work tirelessly, perfecting the art of simulating microgravity, the look of lunar soil, the unique patterns left by boots and rover wheels, and the haunting blackness of space. The astronauts themselves, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, are drawn into this conspiracy, told that their actions are for the good of their country. Trusting their superiors and the necessity of beating the Soviets at all costs, they go along. On July 20th, 1969, millions of people around the globe huddle around their television sets and radios, holding their breath as Armstrong's voice crackles through the static. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. In reality, Armstrong steps onto a meticulously constructed set, filmed with state-of-the-art cameras, lighting designed to simulate the harsh sunlight of the moon, and with dialogue and movements painstakingly rehearsed. At first, the ruse is a monumental success. The American public erupts in pride and jubilation. The world is awed by this seemingly miraculous feat of engineering. The Soviet Union, caught off guard by America's apparent triumph, loses momentum in the space race. The myth of American technological supremacy is sealed by a narrative that will echo in classrooms, documentaries, and history books for generations. Yet, as time passes, cracks begin to form in the official story. In this alternate reality, people are always looking closely at the footage, scrutinizing every detail. Something about the lighting seems off to a few sharp-eyed individuals, shadows cast at impossible angles, the flag waving in a way that's hard to explain in a vacuum, inconsistencies in the backgrounds of photographs. Among scientists and engineers, rumors occasionally swirl, whispered doubts passed quietly in the backs of conference halls and late-night meetings. Some insiders struggle with guilt, knowing the truth but unable to share it without risking their careers, reputations, and perhaps even their safety. The American government, desperate to maintain the illusion, creates new layers of cover-up. Whistleblowers are discredited, evidence is destroyed, and dissenters are surveilled. Ironically, the very agency that claimed to be uplifting humanity becomes mired in paranoia and secrecy. Abroad, the rest of the world watches with a mixture of envy and suspicion. The Soviet Union, with its advanced tracking technology, begins to pick up inconsistencies. Their scientists note that while radio signals and telemetry appear convincing, certain trajectories and timings don't quite add up. Perhaps, in this timeline, the Soviets launch their own reveal, exposing alleged evidence of the fake. Or maybe they keep the information to themselves, leveraging it secretly for diplomatic gains, a potent piece of blackmail or a bargaining chip at the negotiating table. For the public, the consequences are profound. If and when the truth starts to leak out, first as speculation, then as mounting evidence, and finally as undeniable fact, the sense of betrayal is seismic. Trust in government institutions plummets. Ordinary Americans, who once believed in the power of collective action and ingenuity, become cynical, disillusioned. If the government could fake something like the moon landing, what else might they be lying about? The scientific community suffers as well. NASA's reputation, once sterling, is tarnished. Funding for ambitious projects dries up as policymakers and the public lose faith. Those who've devoted their lives to the pursuit of knowledge and exploration find themselves burdened by association with a lie they never condoned. Young people who once dreamed of becoming astronauts and engineers are inspired instead by skepticism and suspicion. Culturally, art and media begin to reflect this new reality. Conspiracy thrillers, science fiction, and alternative histories proliferate. The archetype of the rogue truth-teller, the whistleblower, takes center stage in stories and films. The moon landing itself, once a symbol of hope, becomes shorthand for deception and, ironically, a cautionary tale about the cost of unchecked ambition and the fragility of trust. The global geopolitical order is altered too. With the revelation of a faked moon landing, America's soft power, the admiration and influence it once commanded, ebbs away. Allies question not just the authenticity of its achievements, but also the sincerity of its promises. Rival nations, emboldened, assert themselves more aggressively on the world stage. The dream of global cooperation in space, international space stations, joint missions, peaceful scientific collaboration, faces a grim new hurdle. Yet paradoxically, this dark timeline might also spark new movements for transparency, accountability, and skepticism. People begin demanding more from their leaders, pushing for independent verification, open access to scientific data, and greater oversight of powerful institutions. The lessons learned from the deception shape public policy, education, and media literacy for generations. Technological development itself takes a detour. Without the inspiration and massive investment spurred by the genuine Apollo missions, certain branches of science and engineering lag behind. Microcomputers, materials science, telecommunications, all of which benefited from the technological push of the space program, develop more slowly. Commercial spin-offs, from memory foam to satellite communications, are delayed or derailed. Nevertheless, the dream of spaceflight remains. A new generation, growing up in the aftermath of the scandal, views space as the final frontier not yet conquered. This pent-up yearning for the stars eventually sparks grassroots efforts and private initiatives. Perhaps, decades later, a genuine mission to the moon is undertaken, not by a government desperate to prove itself, but by a coalition of nations or pioneering companies motivated by curiosity, innovation, and the desire for redemption. The first true lunar explorers, when they finally set foot upon the real moon, carry with them not just the hopes of humanity, but also the weight of history and the cautionary lessons of the past. Their achievement is hard-won, the product of renewed commitment to honesty, evidence, and collaboration. The world watches with tempered expectation, haunted by previous betrayal but yearning for something authentic. In classrooms, the story of the faked moon landing becomes a case study. Teachers explain not only the physics of space travel, but the sociology of trust and the psychology of belief. Students discuss the importance of skepticism in science and in society, while also recognizing the crucial role of hope and imagination. The arts, too, process the trauma and the eventual triumph. Poets, painters, filmmakers, and musicians grapple with themes of disillusionment, resilience, and the persistent pull of the unknown. The moon, that eternal muse, regains its place as a symbol not of deceit, but of renewal, a reminder that even in the aftermath of great lies, humanity can aspire to something greater. Meanwhile, in the realm of science fiction, writers craft ever more elaborate alternate histories. In some, the deception succeeds so perfectly that the truth is never uncovered, humanity's progress forever guided by a foundational myth. In others, the exposure of the fraud leads to a dark dystopia, or a renaissance of honesty and innovation. These stories reflect and refract the anxieties and aspirations of their times, posing deep questions about identity, progress, and the meaning of achievement. On the political stage, new norms emerge. International treaties are strengthened to require not only transparency in space exploration, but also mechanisms for third-party verification and independent oversight. The Outer Space Treaty is amended, incorporating lessons learned from the deception and the cover-up. A new ethos of scientific openness and shared stewardship of space takes hold, however imperfect and hard-won. Of course, in this alternate world, debates about the moon landing's authenticity never fully die. Subcultures dedicated to uncovering old lies or spinning new ones proliferate in the corners of social discourse. The term moon hoaxer evolves, now referring not to those who deny the landing, but those who insist on maintaining or reviving the myth, often for reasons of nostalgia, politics, or simple disbelief. Ultimately, the question of what if the moon landing was faked is not just a matter of historical speculation, but an exploration of deeper truths about humanity itself. It asks us to consider the power and peril of storytelling, the importance of evidence and inquiry, and the enduring nature of hope, even in the face of profound betrayal. In daily life, the ripple effects of this alternate history are everywhere. People are more cautious in their optimism, more rigorous in their skepticism, and perhaps slower to rally behind grand, state-driven narratives. Yet, when faced with new scientific challenges, pandemics, climate change, the mysteries of the universe, they also draw on the hard-earned wisdom of the past, insisting on transparency, collective scrutiny, and international cooperation. Governments, too, evolve. Lessons learned from the moon landing hoax shape the formation of new agencies and protocols. Intelligence services, once obsessed with secrets and propaganda, are reined in by publics weary of deception. In the best versions of this alternate future, democracy itself emerges stronger, grounded in an informed citizenry and robust institutions. Yet, the shadows of the faked moon landing linger. It becomes a touchstone for cynics and conspiracy theorists, a rallying cry for those who distrust official narratives. Every major scientific achievement thereafter, breakthroughs in medicine, discoveries in physics, new explorations in space, must contend with heightened scrutiny and skepticism. On a more philosophical note, humanity's very relationship with the unknown is changed. The moon, once conquered in triumph, returns to being a realm of mystery, a blank canvas, a mirror for our hopes and fears. People look up at the night sky, pondering not just what is possible, but what is true. Generations later, as humanity finally finds a way to send people to the moon, and, beyond that, to Mars and the stars, the story of the faked landing serves as both a warning and an inspiration. History teachers remind students of the dangers of shortcuts, the seduction of easy answers, and the moral imperative to pursue truth, however inconvenient or difficult. Yet, the fact that humanity ultimately chooses to try again, to strive for the real, to risk the unknown, speaks to a deeper resilience, an unquenchable thirst for discovery and meaning. In the end, even in a timeline marred by falsehood, the impulse that drove people to reach for the moon survives, stronger and wiser for all that was lost and learned. And so, the world where the moon landing was faked is not just a cautionary tale about deception, but a meditation on the possibilities of redemption, the power of hope, and the enduring human drive to reach beyond our limitations, to touch at long last the true face of the moon. Thank you for watching the video. What do you think about today's topic? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and share the video to support the channel. Thanks again, and see you in the next video.